Hi, this is Pat Duckworth, the hot woman with cool solutions and the author of the #1 international best-selling book, Hot Women Rock. And as a celebration of all the women who gave me their stories for the book, I'm interviewing them all. I'm spending some time in my kitchen with them so we can find out more about their stories. And today I'm going to be talking to Alessandra Alonso. And Alessandra, she works with individuals and teams to enhance their effectiveness, their confidence, their communications, their employability skills, and their overall performance. And she provides coaching and mentoring. She facilitates learning and development through workshops or, in longer term, strategic project work for organizations. So she founded the Everyday Mentor, and that's what she's doing now. And we can find out more about it when we speak to Alessandra. Alessandra, hello, how are you doing?
Hello, good morning, Pat. I'm very well, thank you. Delighted to be speaking to you.
We've had a few technical problems this morning, but we're hanging on in there and we're going to get this done. So, Alessandra, you were born in Italy. You started out your work in the European Union, and then you came to the UK. You've had a really interesting international career. Do you want to say a little bit about that before we talk about Everyday Mentor?
Sure, absolutely. Yes, I guess I came over in '93 from Italy as a young graduate, and obviously a head full of dreams and hopes and aspirations. But my passion and what I had studied was always the European Union and learning about the economic and the politics and the legislation around the European Union and Europe more generally. So eventually I ended up as a trainee at the European Commission and spent some time in Brussels working for the Commission, and before coming back to the UK. And I guess that when I came back to the UK, I continued my interest and pursued a master in European studies, but eventually through the contact I had made in Brussels, I worked for an organization called the World Travel and Tourism Council, which was a large lobby government-focused organization, which gave me the opportunity to do many of the things that I would have otherwise done in Brussels whilst remaining in London.
Yeah.
And I traveled the world and lobbied government for, in favor of travel and tourism. And I was very young, I was still in my late 20s, and very quickly learned about the importance of contact and relationship development and, positioning yourself for future opportunity with the right people.
Yeah. And then you made this big change to setting up Everyday Mentor. What was the thing that made you make that change?
I guess that, after leaving the WTTC, I went to work for KPMG, which is a large advisory firm. I was still working in the travel and tourism sector, but I actually helped to set up the division within KPMG UK and also afterwards around sort of Europe, and work with clients in the sector. One of the things that I realized very soon is that I was really interested in people and in the way people worked more effectively together. I was also in a very male-dominated industry, and so in terms of the professional services, and so I particularly got involved and interested in how women could be more successful and more effective both in corporate and outside, because I met a lot of women who left the corporate world in order to set up their own businesses because they felt that they couldn't achieve what they wanted to achieve, or they couldn't sort of juggle work and life, family and priorities and so on, whilst being in a corporate. So this became, I guess, a dominant interest, and I decided to train myself as a coach and get more involved on the people side. So eventually I left KPMG and set up first a business called Shine with a business partner, and more sort of latterly everyday mentor as an independent. And so my focus remains people performance, people effectiveness, tapping into people potential, and particularly female potential and female leadership.
Yeah. What's been the biggest challenge in setting up Everyday Mentor?
I guess that one of the things that I realized very soon is that when you come out of a corporate environment, you no longer have that brand behind you. Now, the brand is a ticket for customers, for your audience. So they don't necessarily question you because you are coming from a large organization which they know, understand, and recognize. In setting up by myself, I've had to really prove myself and my ability outside that brand. The upside, I guess, is that when people get to know you and understand you, they really buy you. And therefore, repeat business is most of my business because my client like me and trust me and think they can do business with me.
Yeah. I mean, having come from a big organization background myself, one of my biggest challenges is there's nobody that I can give work to do. You know, if there's a job that needs doing, I've got to do it myself, or I've got to find somebody to do it. And that can be quite the challenge.
It is quite a challenge for sure. But I think ultimately you get on with it. I think for me, the hardest thing has been to pick up the phone and say to people, I'm no longer KPMG, now I'm Alessandra, will you still buy my services? Will you still, consider me as an advisor and as a trusted consultant? And so, again, having built a very very nurturing relationship, and continuing to nurturing those relationships is very important, because ultimately, that once you have the client's trust, you won't lose it. But it takes some time to build that, especially large organization, which think, you are one, what can you do for me?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is Pat Duckworth, the hot woman with cool solutions, talking to Alessandra Alonso. And Alessandra and I met at a networking meeting. Now, in some of these other interviews, I've talked about that importance of surrounding yourself with people who support you, who are positive for you, and the sort of people who will refer you, as we were just talking about, the people who already know you and trust you. So I think it's great that we can talk about networking, because that's how we met. I stood in for somebody else at a meeting, met Alessandra. We've had a few really good conversations and meetings, and then I was just so keen to get her to write her story for the book. So Alessandra, just say a bit about what part networking plays in your business now.
Well, networking is critically important to me. And, how I see networking is as an integral part of my marketing strategies. In fact, it's probably one of the most important, if not the most important, because as a one-woman band, I don't have the large budgets that enable me to promote myself through, advertisement or other form of marketing. And I attend regularly new meetings, meet people face to face, ask people for, their opening, for them to open their network and their contacts to me. I find that face to face continues to be the best, the way it works best for me. But I'm also conscious that it's not about exploiting, in a negative sense, people or monopolizing people. It's about building sustainable relationship. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, because they think that networking is about selling or pushing themselves or their product. And also a lot of people use networking only as, the event they attend. Whilst, the very important part of networking is the pre and the post networking, and it's a whole life cycle. So you have to nurture the relationship. You've got to be helpful to the person that you meet. And it may take a long time. I've had clients who have eventually come back to me after 10 years in which, you know, we had met, we'd seen each other on fairly regularly, maybe annually, but nothing had happened except the day in which they needed a service that I could provide. They came back straight to me, so I didn't have to go through any competitive kind of tendering, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, I mean, you could network from breakfast in the morning through mid-morning coffee to a lunchtime meeting, an afternoon tea, an evening meeting, a dinner meeting. How do you choose which networking meetings you go to?
Yeah, you have to be quite strategic, actually. And I think you have to be also quite ruthless, especially if, like me, you are a working mom. So, you know, you have to juggle your priority. And the evening, you know, I have to be really, really careful and choosy. But ultimately, as I said, it's about thinking strategically what you can get out of that networking event, who is there that would be helpful to you to meet, what kind of industry, what can you offer in advance, do you have a really good proposition if somebody asks you what you do or what you can deliver. So it's about all the planning that takes place. And I think, again, you know, just as we do a business plan and a marketing plan and we set objective for the beginning of the year, you know, for the rest of the year, so you should do for your networking. And, you know, and make sure that you have really explored all the avenues available and the type of networking available. So, for example, I do longer term networking that perhaps is, you know, once a month or once a week, a regular meeting, but I also do ad hoc. I also try and explore networking through, for example, attending professional conferences. And of course, trying to speak or present, introduce myself as a panel speaker or as a writer of articles and then propose therefore content that I have developed. That's also a great opportunity to develop good networking links.
Gosh, there are lots of tips in there. I mean, there's that whole thing of preparing for the meeting, when you're at the meeting, having a good proposition that you can explain to people what it is you do so they know how to recommend you, following up after the meetings, being strategic about which meetings you go to. Lots of tips there. It's not just about picking a network and going along.
No, it's definitely not. And in fact, you know, one of the things that I sometimes do is I run workshops for, you know, networking skills for organizations because people tend to follow in two categories. Either they shy away from networking because they think it's about selling and pushing and they find themselves in an uncomfortable zone, or they avoid it because, or better not, they don't avoid it, but they just turn up and therefore they miss out on the strategic and longer term value that networking can offer you. So teaching people how to network appropriately, it's a very important skill to acquire.
Yeah, and I think some women are put off networking, maybe some men are as well, by having to stand up and present a bit about themselves. You know, some women don't go to meetings just because they don't want to stand up for a minute. And I really encourage them to get over their fear, because this is, in a way, a safe environment to practice your pitch and to get feedback from it and to get support for it. So I really encourage women to have a go, and if they need professional help, somebody like yourself, or, you know, the sort of therapy that I do, to get them over the problem so that they can present their business and form those really valuable connections. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, amazing. Alessandra, if anybody watching wants to contact you, how can they find out more about you? How can they contact you?
So I run a blog, website called Everyday Mentor, and it's www.everydaymentor.co.uk. I also have a Twitter handle, which is at Everyday Mentor. And if they want to email me, they can do so directly at Alessandra, that is ALESSANDRA, at everydaymentor.co.uk. And I would love to hear from anyone out there who wants to have a chat or needs some coaching support or some business support or indeed some networking skills.
Excellent, Alessandra. I hope we're going to meet up again soon, and so we can have another chat and just keep helping and supporting each other. So thank you to everybody watching, and keep watching out, because you'll learn a lot from these women who have made changes at midlife, many of them setting up businesses and going on an entrepreneurial journey. So join us for more of these. Look forward to seeing you again next time.
Pat, thank you very much and take care.
You're really welcome.